There is a moment, and you know the one, where the jacket comes off, not on stage, not in the meeting, after the hotel room, the end of a long day where everything performed correctly. The deal moved, the room listened, the introduction landed the way it was supposed to. And then you're standing at the mirror and the jacket is over the chair and the shirt is doing something it shouldn't. The shoulders aren't filling the frame the way they used to. There is softness through the chest that the jacket was managing. The posture that held the room, that commanded it, that made the conversation go where you needed it to go, drops about 2 inches where the structure underneath it is just you. You don't say anything, you file it. You've been filing it for a while. Because tomorrow there's another jacket, and it's a good jacket. The room will listen again. Presence is not announced, it is carried. That is the law of this stage. And if you want fitness content that tells you to get lean and feel confident, this is not your episode. This podcast is for men who have built real authority. Founders, operators, CEOs, men carrying decisions at a level most people don't see and don't understand. Men whose standards in the deal room, in the boardroom, in every professional environment are non-negotiable, and who have quietly allowed the body to drift behind everything else. The suit is doing more work than it should, and you know it. If that's not you, no problem. This isn't your episode. This is Iron Suits, where strength wears a crown. I am Marwan. Strip removed what shouldn't be there. The excess is gone. The metabolic signals are accurate. The system is ready. Now comes a build. Not the build most men imagine when they hear that word. Not size for its own sake. Not a bodybuilder's objective. Not the pursuit of aesthetics that has nothing to do with how a man at your level actually operates. The build that matters is the one that resonates something specific. Posture, upper body structure, the physical density that communicates before a word is spoken, the kind of presence that makes a room unconsciously assign authority to a man who's just walked through the door. That presence is not accidental, it is structural. It is produced by specific muscle groups trained with a specific intention over a specific period of time. And here's a distinction most men miss. And this is the part that explains why fat loss alone never closes the gap. Strip reveals the frame, sculpt rebuilds it. Fat loss removes the disguise, it does not build the weapon. The man who completes strip and stops, there is no leaner. The numbers improved and the presence still isn't there, because lean is not the same as commanding. Smaller is not the same as stronger. You do not restore presence by shrinking. You restore it by building. Most men skip to this stage without completing strip. They add mass to a system that wasn't ready to carry it cleanly. The man who completes strip first enters sculpt with a foundation that makes the work compound correctly. The sequence is not optional, and sculpt for a man at your level is not optional either. The weight came off, so why don't I look powerful? You walked into a boardroom last month. The suit was right. The jacket held the shape. You moved with authority the room expected. And the conversation went where you needed it to go. And at some point, maybe in the mirror left afterwards, jacket still on, catching yourself at an angle you weren't expecting. You saw it, not dramatically, not as crisis, just as fact. The jacket was doing more than holding the shape. It was creating it. You haven't been in that lift before. The one where you glance and then look away and then glance again. Where the man looking back is wearing the authority correctly, but carrying it differently than he used to. The posture you hold in the room, the one that costs nothing when the structure underneath it is built, costs something now. You can feel it. A slight forward pull through the shoulders, a chest that doesn't open the way it did, the frame that was once a foundation of the presence and is now the thing the wardrobe is managing on your behalf. You don't talk about it, neither does the room. The room still gives you what you're owed. The introduction precedes you. The title lands first. And a man who has built what you've built, who carries the decisions, the track record, the owned authority, does not walk into a room and get ignored. The room listens. The room has always listened. But you've started noticing something else. The younger men in the room, sharper, earlier in their careers, some of them build differently, not more accomplished, not operating at your level, but carrying their bodies with the directness you recognize from an earlier version of yourself. And you don't say anything. You don't compare. But the observation happens every time. There's a client dinner where the suit holds the silhouette through the entrance, through the handshakes, through the conversation. And then you sit down and the jacket opens and something shifts. Not enough for anyone to name it, enough for you to feel it. There is the partner who hasn't said anything directly, but the glance exists, the one that reads the posture, reads the softness, reads the gap between what used to be there and what's there now. Nothing is said, nothing needs to be said. The observation is already filed. There's the sun, watching, not judging. Is not built that way, but watching. Because that's what sons do. They watch whether the man they're learning from holds the standard or explains why it doesn't apply right now. They're watching for the consistency between what a man says and what a man is. And what a man is physically, structurally, in the way he occupies space and occupies himself is part of what gets transmitted. The suit can sharpen a silhouette. It cannot create structure. A man can be professionally ruthless and physically evasive at the same time. The room will not call him on it. The wardrobe will not call him on it. The introduction will not call him on it. But the mirror at 6 a.m, jacket off, shirt doing what it does, that calls him on it every time. You build the authority, you never build the frame to carry it. Sculpt builds a frame, not as decoration, as infrastructure. The physical structure that holds a man the way a building's frame holds everything built on top of it. Remove the frame or never build it, and the weight of everything above shows, and the weight of everything above it shows in the posture. Every day, in every room before anyone asks who you are. The suit still works. That's the problem. Here's what Sculpt is actually building. Not a physique, not a number on the scale, not a before after. A man at your level does not train for those things. And any system that frames Sculpt in those terms has already missed the point. Sculpt builds a physical architecture of command. The upper back is the first mechanism. This is a structure that holds the posture open. The muscles that pull the shoulders back and down. The ones that keep the chest from collapsing forward after years of desk work, screen time, and the slow physical cost of operating at high pressure without a deliberate counterbalance. A man with a developed upper back walks differently, stands differently, enters a room differently. Not because he's trying to, because the structure supports it without effort. Presence stops being performed and starts being structural. The presence pattern is the second mechanism. The pressing pattern, not presence, the pressing pattern is the second mechanism. Horizontal and vertical pressing, chest, shoulders, upper arms, rebuild with precision. This is the part that fills the jacket correctly. Not in a way that reads as vanity, in a way that reads as build. There is a difference between a man whose jacket hangs on him and a man whose jacket fits him. One is dressed, one is wearing it. Sculpt builds a version that wears it. The hinge and carry are the third mechanism, the posterior chain. The movements that build the kind of functional strength that reads across everything. How a man gets up from a chair. How he moves through a room. How he carries himself under load. Physical load, professional load. The sustained pressure that comes with the level of operation you're at. Strength in the hinge pattern is not gym specific. It is structural. It is a kind of physical capacity that used to be assumed and has quietly been allowed to erode. Progressive overload is the principle that holds all of it together. Not maximum effort every single session, not punishment, consistent, incremental demand that tells the body, adapt or fall behind. The body adapts every time. If the stimulus is consistent, if the nutrition supports the signal, if the sleep allows the recovery, and this is the part that matters more than any of the physiology. Muscle is not valuable because it burns calories. This is the smallest way to understand it. Muscle changes how a man occupies space. It changes the physical grammar of how he enters a room. It changes what the room reads before he opens his mouth. Muscle is not decoration. It is physical proof of repeated standards. Every session is a standard held. Every compound movement is a decision executed. Progressive overload is not a training principle. It is a behavioral pattern that maps directly onto how you operate in every other domain. Demand increases over time. Performance adapts, or it falls behind. A room does not care how convincing your explanation was. The man who exits Sculpt correctly is not just leaner with more muscle. He is physically congruent with the authority he carries professionally. The room was already assigning him that authority. The body now supports the assignment instead of quietly contradicting it. If the title says leader but the body says neglected, the room reads both. It may not say so, but it reads both. I thought lean would be enough. What Sculpt looks like for a man at your level: 3 to 4 sessions a week, 30 to 50 minutes, compound movements as a foundation. Not isolation work, not machines that train one muscle in one plane of motion for a body that moves in 3 dimensions. Not the gym floor ego of the younger man with no decisions to carry and nothing but time. Compound movements. Movements that build the specific architecture this stage is after. The upper back, the pressing pattern, the hinge, the carry. These build what Sculpt is designed to build. Structural density through the torso and the shoulders. The posture correction that opens the chest. The physical presence that cannot be produced any other way. Not with a different suit, not with a different introduction, not by standing straighter because you're trying to. Progressive overload is the principle. Not maximum effort every session, consistent incremental demand. The body adapts every time if the 3 inputs are held. The stimulus, the nutrition to support it, the sleep to allow the recovery. Now, there is a moment early in Sculpt that most men are not prepared for. You walk into the gym, you know this place, you have been here before. The version of you has been here before. There are numbers in your head. The weight you used to move, the bar that used to feel like a standard you held without thinking about it. And then you step up to it, and the bar doesn't care what you used to do. The body shows you, without ceremony, without compassion, without any interest in your track record or your title or the decisions you've been carrying, exactly what has been allowed to erode. A way that moved cleanly before requires something different now. The reps that came easily require re-earning. The frame you built once and stopped maintaining has a deficit, and the deficit is precise. There is no narrative layer, no way to reframe it. The bar either moves or it doesn't. That is not punishment. That is information. And the only response to it is the same response you bring to every other gap between where you are and where you should be. You close it systematically, without drama, without waiting for a better week or a lighter schedule. You re-earn the frame. Now, this is where most men negotiate themselves out of the stage. One travel week becomes evidence that the structure can't survive contact with the real schedule. One poor night's sleep becomes permission, quiet, reasonable sounding permission to suspend the whole stage until things settle. One missed session becomes a narrative about complexity. That is not complexity. That is the old pattern looking for a legal loophole. A man who demands clean systems in every other domain and grants himself rolling exceptions in this one is not facing an unusual challenge. He is choosing where the standards applies. And the body is keeping score whether he is or not. Men love intensity because intensity feels like progress. Show up hard once, disappear for a week, show up hard again. It feels like effort. Sculpt doesn't ask for intensity. It asks for precision, consistent, incremental, unexcused precision. The same standard held across the duration of the stage. It is a decision. 3 inputs held without exception across the duration of Sculpt. That is the stage, and the man it produces is not the man who walked into strip. If I don't build it now, I'll keep dressing around what's missing. Presence is not projected, it is grown, deliberately, in the only way the body allows. The men who skip Sculpt, or who finish strip and call it done, all arrive at the same moment eventually. Leaner than they were, lighter, their numbers improved, and their presence still isn't there, still being managed, still outsourced to the wardrobe, still dependent on the right jacket, the right cut, the right introduction arriving before the body does. Because fat loss reveals a frame, it does not build it. You cannot buy this stage. You cannot skip it. You cannot approximate it with better tailoring or a more commanding entrance or a title that precedes you into the room. It requires the work, specific work with a specific objective, held consistently over a specific period. Most men don't fail Sculpt because they lack discipline. They fail it because they never accepted what it is. They think lean is the destination. They reach lean and wait for presence to appear, and it doesn't, because presence is not the absence of fat. It is the absence of structure. And structure has to be built. The room assigned you authority before you earned a frame. The room will keep doing that for a while, as long as the suit holds, as long as the title lands, as long as the introduction buys enough time before the body adds its own sentence to everything you say. But you know the sentence has been adding. You know it when the jacket comes off. You know it when you stand beside a man who carries less authority but more structure. You know it when the mirror gives you a version of the truth that the room was too polite to say. Muscle is not decoration. It is physical proof of repeated standards. You hold standards everywhere else. Strip gave you the foundation. Sculpt gives you the structure. The man who exits stage 2 is not finished, but he is no longer hiding the same gap. He moves differently. He occupies space differently. He carries the authority he has built professionally in a frame that can finally support it. Not because of how it looks, because of what it means when the jacket comes off and nothing changes. When the lift mirror catches you at an angle you weren't expecting, and what's looking back holds the frame, I'll say that again. When the lift mirror catches you at an angle you weren't expecting, and what's looking back holds the same authority as the man who just left the room. When the posture is not maintained because you're not, when the posture is not maintained because you're trying, when it is just there because the structure underneath it was built. That is what Sculpt produces. Not transformation story, not before and after. A man who no longer needs a wardrobe to carry the frame he should be carrying. The suit still fits. It just stopped doing the work alone. It is the one place your standards stopped matching your title. He can keep letting the suit, the title, and the room carry what the body no longer does. The room will hold that arrangement for as long as it holds. Some men run the arrangement for as long as it holds. Rather, some men run that arrangement for the rest of their careers, and it never fully collapses. But it is an arrangement, and he knows it. The frame either gets built deliberately, precisely, without exception, across the duration of this stage, or it doesn't. And if it doesn't, eventually he won't be the only one who notices. The body that fills the room was built in a room no one else was watching. This is where Sculpt happens. If this landed, you need episode 18, Strip. Why most fat loss fails before it starts. Same system, earlier stage. It will show you why most men try to build presence on a foundation that was never ready to hold it. Iron suits where strength wears a crown. I am Marwan Killu. Next episode, stage 3, shred. Precision without obsession. Until then, talk to you soon. Have a great day.